I've been doing the progression series for a while now, and I'm finally to the first release. So I spent a very long time on the core box because I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss anything in the core box. And with the core box, like in my other buyer's guide, I said that I wish I had spent more time on the core box. So for my progression series that I'm doing, I'm just doing that. I'm taking my own advice. I slowed down on the core box. I really tried to experience every hero in the core box, and it was a great time. But that said, even though it was really good, I'm really excited to get some new heroes and to get a new villain. So the first thing that came out in chronological order was Captain America, Miss Marvel, and the Green Goblin scenario pack. So for this planning video of my progression series, I'm going to talk about all the cards that are in the Miss Marvel and Captain America packs, and then make some decks. So find out some deck ideas that I'm really excited for, and then test them out against the villains. Captain America, no surprise, came with a bunch of Avengers support. So there's a bunch of new allies here: Wonder Man, Squirrel Girl, and Falcon, which I think are all fantastic. Wonder Man says, as an additional cost for Wonder Man to attack, you must discard one card from your hand, but his stats are really good. So you can thwart one just like normal because the asterisk is only on the attack. So he can just be a 2-cost ally that thwarts one twice and then blocks, which is already pretty good. And then also he has 3 attack. And the 3 attack is great for putting in a lot of damage on villains or taking out a minion when you need to. A lot of minions in the core box time, like in the Claw scenario, for instance, Wonder Man can just take out with one hit, which is super good. So I'm excited for Wonder Man. Squirrel Girl is amazing. So a 2-cost ally, 1 thwart, 1 attack, and 2 health. But the response here is after Squirrel Girl enters play, deal 1 damage to each enemy. So Ultron, who's like the big boss of the core box, gets completely countered by Squirrel Girl. All those minions, Squirrel Girl will just take them out, even in 4 players. So this isn't limited to one player. So in a 4-player Ultron game, Squirrel Girl can just come into play and wipe out the minions on the entire board. I think that's crazy. That's just so good. And then Falcon, 4-cost ally with 2 thwart, 2 attack, 3 health. After Falcon enters play, look at the top 3 cards of the encounter deck, and for each treachery looked at this way, remove 1 threat from a scheme. So this, on standard, I think is maybe just kind of an overcost ally, but on expert and in hard scenarios where you're really trying to avoid certain encounter cards, Falcon becomes extremely powerful. So after Falcon enters play, it says look at the top 3 cards, not search. So you'll get to know what those encounter cards are, and it's 3. So in a solo game, you'll get to know your boost card, your encounter card, and then the next boost card. And then in like a 2-player game, you'll get to know a 2 boost cards and 1 encounter card. It gets worse as the player counts go up, but he's still good in higher player counts. So you get to know what those cards are and then plan your turn around it. So you'll know like if it's safe to flip to alter ego. You'll know if you need to block, or you'll know if you need to like recover, or if you have to play another ally. All that kind of stuff you can just plan around the villain, which is very strong. But then also for each treachery, you get to remove 1 threat from a scheme. So I've had him remove 2 and 3 threat like a couple times, not every time, but he often will remove 2 threat. So a 4-cost ally giving you knowledge of the encounter deck that comes into play lets you remove threat immediately and then has 2 thwart and 2 attack, I think is pretty good. And I've used him outside of the progression series, but I'm really excited to use him now that I have access to him. And Quinjet. So this is kind of leaning into this Avenger support. After your turn begins, place 1 time counter on Quinjet. Put an Avenger ally from your hand into play with printed cost equal to or less than the number of time counters on Quinjet. Then discard Quinjet. So if you get this card early, you'll be able to just play expensive allies for free eventually, which I think is pretty cool. I haven't experimented with this card all that much, but I'm going to in the progression series. Avengers Assemble is a 4-cost card, max 1 per round. Ready each Avenger character you control, and until the end of the phase, each Avenger character in play gets +1 thwart and +1 attack. So when you have like 3 or 4 allies out with the Triskelion, and also spoiler for the Avengers Tower, you getting to ready all of them and give them +1 thwart and attack is extremely good. It can like help clear the board of threat, or it can be a final push. Like it's good in the mid game and it's good in the late game, but not good in your first couple turns. It's really expensive, and it requires you to be able to set up a board of allies to be good, but it's still good. But in multiplayer, especially, so like in a 4-player game, if everyone's playing Avengers, like with the core box, the only non-Avenger I think is Miss Marvel. Every Avenger character gets +1 thwart and attack, meaning that all of the heroes will also get that thwart and attack. So if you're playing with like Iron Man, who gets it ready, and then just like multiple other people, this card becomes very good, even if you don't have the big ally setup. So it only readies your allies because it says ready each Avenger character you control, including your hero too, if you're playing a Avengers hero. But it also gives the whole board of Avengers stats, which is super good in 4-player, and it can be good in solo. And then Avengers Tower, 2-cost support. If each of your allies has the Avenger trait, increase your ally limit by 1. And then also, exhaust Avengers Tower, reduce the cost of the next Avenger ally played this phase by 1. That's also very good. So, increasing your ally limit and reducing the cost of an ally you play each turn is it's great. It's a really cool support. An Honorary Avenger. Attached to a friendly character, attached character gets +1 hit point and gains the Avenger trait. I like that Miss Marvel's on the cover here because Miss Marvel is the only character up to this point that doesn't have the Avenger trait. So you can make Miss Marvel an Avenger, or you can throw it onto allies that aren't necessarily Avengers, so you don't like ruin your like Avengers Assemble stuff or your Avengers Tower stuff. So yeah, you can put it on like Maria Hill, or if you're in multiplayer, it doesn't have to be your character. You can throw that onto like Daredevil or Jessica Jones. I think that can be pretty cool. And then worst case scenario, you just put it on your hero, you get +1 hit point, and then if you get caught off guard, you can just discard that card instead of like your Avengers Tower or your Avengers Mansion or something like that. And then Strength in Numbers, a 0-cost card that says exhaust any number of allies you control. Draw 1 card for each ally exhausted this way. So this card can be really good if you get a board of allies and then you can exhaust all of them and draw 3 or 4 cards. That can be really good in certain situations. Now the back of the pack. So all of those cards were part of Captain America's deck. Here are the new cards that we're getting access to that are not in his precon deck. So he has Expert Defense, Hero Interrupt Defense. When your hero defends against an attack, it gets +3 defense for that attack, which can just absorb a big hit. And then Followed, attached to a side scheme, X1 per scheme. When attached scheme is defeated, deal 4 damage to an enemy. The first thing that comes to mind with that is like Claw, because Claw starts with those side schemes out, so I think that'll be pretty good against Claw. So you can like deal 4 to an enemy, take out a minion, or just deal some damage to Claw. And then Enraged, which this card I am not certain how to use yet. I'm going to try to figure it out, but I'm not super excited for this one. It says attached to an ally, max 1 per ally. Attached ally gets +2 attack and takes +1 consequential damage after it attacks. So I think that the idea here is that it's going to be good on Hulk, but outside of putting it on the Hulk ally, I'm kind of confused how I would make use of this, because taking +1 consequential damage after it attacks can be really rough, because like 2 health allies just die and then they miss out on their block, and then 3 health allies will only get 1 activation, so I guess it increases their tempo, so like you get the extra 2 damage, but then you'll just have to block with them after that. So it's like, is it worth playing a 1-cost card to just increase the tempo by 1 on a 2-attack ally? I don't know. So I'll try to figure that out. I want to give all these cards a chance, but I'm not really sure how I'm going to use Enraged yet, other than just throwing it on Hulk. Now, Enhanced Awareness is a 2-cost upgrade. It uses 3 mental counters, and exhaust Enhanced Awareness and remove 1 mental counter from it to generate a mental resource. So this is kind of like the first like aspect resource generation we have. So we have the Helicarrier at this point that reduces cost. We have the Avengers Mansion that draws cards, but we don't really have resource generators. Like the Quinn Carrier is not out yet, and there's not like, yeah. So Enhanced Awareness, I have some ideas for this, but I'll save my ideas for all these cards later after I go over them, because I have a bunch of good ideas. Now here's Miss Marvel. She shifted in protection, which is kind of interesting to me because I'm actually pretty excited to change up her aspect. But here, nonetheless, I am excited for these cards. Nova is a 4-cost ally, 1 thwart to attack. Is a champion trait, 3 health. Interrupt when an enemy initiates an attack against you. Spend an energy resource and deal 2 damage to that enemy. So if you have extra resource generators around, such as enhanced reflexes, which is on the bottom over here, which is basically enhanced awareness, but it just does energies instead. There's a cool little combo here with Miss Marvel's precon deck where you can put enhanced reflexes down and generate energy resources for Nova to just keep dealing 2 damage to an enemy when it initiates an attack, which I think is pretty cool. And then Preemptive Strike is a 1-cost event. When a boost card is turned face up while the villain attacks, cancel all boost icons on that card. Then deal 1 damage to the villain for each boost icon canceled this way. So just a bit more control going with those other protection cards. And then Tackle, 3-cost event. Stun an enemy. If you bid for this card using a physical resource, deal 3 damage to that enemy. This card I think is actually a really big deal. Nowadays, with all these like steady and stalwart mutant villains, it's stuns and confuses aren't as enticing. But at this point in the game, I don't think there's a single villain that has steady or stalwart. So that is really cool. The stun is actually going to be really good, and on top of that, you get 3 damage out of it. So this status card effect is going to be very powerful in protection, just based off my first impressions. An energy barrier. So I went out of order when I got stuff. I got SPDR before I got Miss Marvel, so I didn't really realize that energy barrier was out this early. And spoilers, it's a tech upgrade for Iron Man, which is kind of crazy to me that Iron Man already had a bunch of tech upgrades that he can put into his deck on the very first release. I did not realize that, having gone out of order. But anyways, when you would take any damage from an attack, remove 1 reflection counter from here and prevent 1 of that damage and deal 1 damage to an enemy. So just really good. It's been solid the whole time, and it is still good. And then Lockjaw is interesting. So Lockjaw is a 4-cost ally with 2 thwart and 2 attack, but takes 2 consequential damage, has 4 health, and the ability is you may play Lockjaw from your discard pile during your turn, paying his resource cost, which I think that's really cool. It gives the other aspects, or it's a basic card, but if you're playing Aggression, Justice, or Protection, you have access to an ally in your discard pile that you can just play out of your discard pile if you need an ally to block or something like that. I think that's really cool. And when I first saw Lockjaw, again, I got Miss Marvel really late. I was not excited about Lockjaw. But at this point in the game's life cycle, I'm extremely excited about Lockjaw, and I think he'll be like a staple of this deck. Another cool thing about Lockjaw is you can play him from your discard pile. So when you put him into your discard pile and play him from there, he's actually slightly cheaper than if you play him from your hand, right? Because if he's in your hand, it's the 4 resources for him, plus Lockjaw's leaving your hand, and so it's 5 effective resources. But if it's from the discard pile, he becomes 4 effective resources because he's not leaving your hand in that case. So he's actually essentially a 3-cost ally. His effective resource cost is equivalent to 3-cost allies when you're playing him from the discard pile, and then he can thwart 2 and block when you need him. So you can have him thwart 2 twice, which is okay if you need thwarting, attack 2 twice if you need damage, or you can just come in, thwart or attack, and then block for you. So Lockjaw is extremely versatile, and I'm excited for him. Now Endurance, which, again, really cool that it came out this early. Giving your hero plus 3 hit points is going to be super cool. Like, I personally just really like the feeling of having more hit points. And like characters like Spider-Man that can go to Alter Ego and then recover so much with Aunt May, he often over recovers. So Spider-Man with Endurance and then Aunt May, you can actually, it's a super good combo in my opinion, because you can just flip down and heal 8, which when he's at like 13, he'll have 13 health. So when you go down to below 5 health, you can heal up a full 8, whereas oftentimes you have to be at 2 health for that to work out, and you're flipping down at like 3-4 health often. So yeah, this will help Spider-Man make up a lot of not lose any value on Aunt May. And then back of the pack for Miss Marvel. So we have Concussive Blow, which is the equivalent of Tackle, but for Justice. Confuse an enemy, and if you bid for this card using a physical resource, deal 3 damage to that enemy. So this is absolutely insane at this point in the game's life cycle. Justice already having an attack event that can confuse as well is crazy. So like before this, Justice didn't have any ways to do damage, but now Justice can do damage. So it kind of just takes the place of Haymaker in my opinion. Like I was really excited about adding Haymaker into these decks, but Concussive Blow having that three damage is gonna be really good. I'm not saying I won't ever run Haymaker again in Justice, but it was like a staple of Justice before. And now we have an attack event and a confuse, and the confuse is better than a stun because you can flip down and get access to your alter ego abilities. And yeah, I'm shocked at how early this card came out and how powerful it's going to be. I did not realize that concussive blow came out this early, and I think it's incredibly strong. Now, morale boost, 1 cost event. Choose a hero until the end of the round. That hero gets +1 thwart, +1 attack, and +1 defense. So yeah, this can be really good. So the heroes that come to mind are the ones with readies. So She-Hulk getting the +1 stats, and Captain America and Iron Man with the arc reactor. Giving that to them as a leadership player would be really cool because it doesn't have to be your hero. So if they're playing like Iron Man, let's say Iron Man's playing Justice, he has 3 thwart from having heroic intuition out. You can give him 4 thwart, and then Iron Man can ready up and thwart 8 in 1 turn, which that's just really cool. And then melee, I'm excited about too. Honed technique is most of the time how I see melee. I almost never see melee in decks without honed technique when I look online. But yeah, the honed technique isn't out yet. So melee is just a 3 damage to an enemy and then deal 3 damage to another enemy. So again, it'll be pretty good at taking out minions in all these minion heavy scenarios that we have at this point. Because like the mutagen formula has a ton of minions, Claw has a ton of minions, Ultron just swarms you with drones. So yeah, I think it'll be versatile for that. Notably, it says deal 3 damage to another enemy. So you can't just deal 3 damage and then 3 damage to the villain. Yeah, so as far as villain damage at this point in the game's life cycle, melee is going to be worse than Haymaker. Not Haymaker, sorry, Uppercut. Yeah, Uppercut as comparing it to Uppercut. So now we have Downtime, a 1-cost upgrade. Place under any player's control, your alter ego gets +2 recovery. So again, leaning into like, you can get a confused build with Downtime, which I think is really cool. You can just flip down, you get +2 recovery, and then you're just healing to full health and then coming back. So I think that's going to be sort of a staple of the Justice aspect here. So now here is the big list of cards that we have. I already went over them, but I thought it was cool just like listing them out. So you can see that we got a lot of basic support, a lot of leadership support from Captain America, a decent amount of protection support, and then Justice and Aggression are still lagging behind. But specifically, I'm super excited about Concussive Blow and Lockjaw. So here are the decks that I'm initially excited to try. So the first one that came to mind was Black Panther, because Black Panther has all of these vibranium resources, and with just the core box, he doesn't have like enough targets to spend it on, I could say, to like maximize him. But now having Lockjaw in the discard pile, whenever you just have a bunch of resources in your hand, you can just go buy Lockjaw out from the discard pile, which I think that's really cool. And then using Endurance to increase his health so he can just keep healing more and more with his Vibranium armor, I think it's going to be really cool. And then, yeah, he'll just be able to run all of the Avengers stuff really well because, again, he's very tanky naturally because of the Vibranium armor. So he'll be able to get a lot of benefit out of these allies and using Avengers Assemble to actually get output out of them instead of just having to have them chunk block for him. So I'm excited about that. And then strength in numbers, when I need to, I can try it out to like try to find a bunch of Wakanda Forevers once I'm built out. So I'm excited about that strategy. And then I wanted to try She-Hulk in leadership as well, because I didn't really do it much for the core box. But now that I have these extra leadership cards, I think they can go well with her. So morale boost, giving +1 stats, and on the it decides until the end of the round, so she can defend 2 for 3 if she wants, and then combining that with 1-2 punch. I'm excited for that. And then Quinjet being able to just keep ticking and then actually afford expensive Avengers allies. I think it's going to be really fun for her. So I can do sort of like a not all-in leadership strategy like with Black Panther, but I can use morale boost and Quinjet to like cheat some cheap allies in, buff up her stats, and then again increase her hit points with endurance, increase her recovery with downtime. So when she does flip down, she gets like a big benefit out of it. And then again, Honorary Avenger just to like again buff up her hit points. Like I'm really excited to do a super high hit point build for She-Hulk. So with endurance she'll have 18 health, and then Honorary Avenger will get her up to 19. So she'll have almost 20 health with this build. So I'm really excited for that. And then Enhanced Awareness is a hero resource that'll generate a mental resource. I'm excited to just put like a couple resource generators in for her. So like with Enhanced Reflexes and Enhanced Awareness, because when you have a small hand size, I think resource generators are really nice because then you don't have to pay for your cards with your other cards. You can play multiple cards in the same turn. So that's my goal there. And for Iron Man, this build is like notorious for him of just having a bunch of tech upgrades, but I did not realize how early on Iron Man can do this. So Energy Barrier is great because it helps him set up, because it adds 3 more tech upgrades to his deck. And then Enhanced Reflexes will be able to pay for Nova, which is just a new protection ally I have access to. And then Preemptive Strike is just a useful card. But then the cool thing here is that Energy Barrier, Nova, Preemptive Strike, and Enhanced Reflexes all have energy resources, meaning that Iron Man's Repulsor Blast will be able to hit more frequently by having all these energy resources in there. And then Enhanced Awareness will allow me to go aerial whenever I want, so I don't have to wait for having a mental card in my hand. I can load my deck with energy resources and then keep Enhanced Awareness down to go aerial. So I'm really excited about this idea for Iron Man. And then the other cards here in the Outlier section, I just wasn't super excited about. So what I was going to do with those is try them out with different heroes and try some different builds that aren't as cohesive, but more like modifying sort of an existing build. And here are those. So Ms. Marvel, I'm not excited about her in protection. I'm much more excited to play her in aggression. So having her recur aggression events, I think is going to be really fun. So I'm going to switch her aspect after I play the precon. And I'm going to use melee and enraged. I'm going to try out the Hulk enraged thing with Ms. Marvel and see how it goes. And then Captain America, I think that it'll be really fun using a confused build for him. I can see him being a great Justice player by increasing his thwart with heroic intuition and then readying up, because he can do this all day. And then followed, I think we'll just fit into that pretty well. And when he flips down, he'll be able to give not the whole table, but he'll be able to reduce the cost of an ally with his alter ego ability, which I think is pretty cool. So yeah, I'm going to try that out with Captain America. And then for Spider-Man, I want to do like a support build for him. So I'll load up his deck with med teams, and then I'll have expert defense so he can like block massive attacks and tackle because he can afford it really easy because he has a lot of money, and then just block for the table and be a support. So that's it. And that's it. That's my plan for this first release. So for Captain America and Ms. Marvel coming out, these are all the decks I want to try, at least initially. And I'm excited to see how this goes. And I hope you're there for the gameplays on the stream, and I'll also be just posting them as regular videos for you to see. And I hope you're all enjoying this progression series, because I've been enjoying it a lot. It's been like really helping me understand the game in a new light as a player who started really late in the game cycle and didn't buy things in order. I'm getting to like understand the history of Marvel Champions in a way that I didn't before, and like get to experience cards that like aren't necessarily as used now, but there was a great place for them, like Lockjaw, for instance. Being super excited for Lockjaw has been amazing for me, because I wasn't excited for Lockjaw when I got him at the very end of the game's life cycle when I already had all the other cards. But right here, I'm pumped for Lockjaw. So it's been really bringing a lot of excitement to the game in a way that was kind of not gone, but bringing an excitement to the game that I didn't get to experience because I went out of order and was late to the party. And I'm hoping that I can share that with you, and that this will be a good resource for new players to like see how a more experienced player plays the new heroes and builds decks with the cards that are only available at that time. Because if you're a new player that just has like core box and Captain America or something like that, or core box and Ms. Marvel, or just the core box, you'll get to see like just a more like experienced take on that, which would have been useful for me when I was starting out. And then also maybe for people who have been around since the beginning, you'll just get like a kick of nostalgia from seeing all these old decks. So anyways, that's all I got. Stay zesty, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I hope you check out the progression series, and let me know what you think in the comments. Are my plans going to work?